Hey everyone, welcome back to FSi DFS. I'm McKinley412 looking at this monster 13 game slate. We got rankings and we'll talk through all of the pitchers and favorite stacks in terms of like top stacks, GPP, cheap stuff, all that. So let's just kind of dive right in. We got a lot to talk about. So in this higher salary tier, we're going to go with Miller on up. Cortez really sticks out the most. Am I excited about playing a 9,400 salary Cortez on a slate where there's 25 other pitching options? Not really, but you can't ignore that he's got a great home matchup facing off against the White Sox, who are just, their offense has been better as of late. But still, they're comparatively to the other matchups that top pitchers have, very easy, quote-unquote, matchup. White Sox really struggle against left-handed pitching so far this season, so another another check mark for Cortez there. And then home road splits. Cortez has always pitched over the course of his career better at home, not to this extreme, but we are seeing some extreme numbers, and we got 10 starts in. We're getting some good sample size here. Almost 26 DK points, 28 strikeouts to 1 walk. That's just silly. 0.6 whip, that's even sillier. But I think Cortez is going to be, rising up as like my favorite pitcher up at this top here. After that, I think you can make a case for quite a few of these guys. Peralta, he's just got a tough matchup facing off against Houston. Peralta, we know him for his strikeout upside, but it's tough to get that strikeout upside against a very low strikeout team. So a little bit of hesitation with him, especially at the 10.4K price tag. He's been a little shaky as of late, especially over the past month. He's been allowing 3 to 5 earned runs almost every single start. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get there with Peralta. Skewball, he's got a nice... Well, no. He's got a brutal matchup facing off against Arizona. Arizona, like, surface level, okay, decent offense, top 10, maybe like lower to 10 range offense in the league, but it's very skewed because against left-handed pitching, they're a top 2 offense in the entire league. Looking at their WRC plus, which takes into account all the different underlying numbers. Top 2 offense in the league against lefties, but they're like a bottom 10 offense against right-handed pitching. It's the biggest disparity in the entire league. So Skewball, being a lefty, not too great for him. But on the flip side of things, he's still Skewball. Like, this guy is absolutely filthy with his stuff. He's been absolutely dominant so far over the course of the season. An ERA of 2, sub-1 whip, 5-0, 60 strikeouts and 49 innings pitched. Like, the strikeout rate is there. Like, he's so good. So I don't know where I want to go to. Obviously, Skewball is elite and is more than worthy of being played on this slate. But at the same time, the Arizona bats, I think, could be a nice leverage spot. Like, if you feel like Skewball is going to be getting some more ownership just because of how dominant that offense is against left-handed pitching. Reagans and Miller. Miller's got a tougher matchup, obviously, facing off against Baltimore. But don't sleep on these Oakland bats. These Oakland bats have been looking a lot better as of late, which does give me a little bit of hesitancy with Reagans in that regard, in that matchup. All this to say, Cortez, number 1 for sure. Skewball, just because of the elite talent that he has. I'm going to go with him, number 2. Reagans against Oakland, number 3. Peralta with the upside that he can bring. But still, I feel like it could be a little bit not of as much of a ceiling, just with, the low strikeout rate that Houston has. Then we're going to round it out with Miller. All these guys certainly in play, though. In the mid-tier, again, another tier where all these guys, I think, are certainly in play. I like all of them. I wouldn't hate or knock you if any of them get into your lineup. Harrison's just got a really nice matchup facing off against Colorado. Means, I wish Means was a right-handed pitcher in this matchup. Means is facing off against Seattle. Seattle is one of the highest strikeout rate teams in the entire league. They strike out more against right-handed pitching, which is why I say that. But still, there's still so many strikeouts that are to be had against this Seattle offense. Seattle does have a little bit of pop in their bats still. Like, they're still a team that I have a little bit of hesitancy playing pitchers against, just because they're still a talented offense. Am I still going to be interested in Means and have a heavy interest in Means or any pitcher that's really going up against Seattle chasing strikeouts? Yes. But I said those three guys, Scott and Fried, I think rise above all of them. Fried, pay attention to the weather concerns that we do have, but he's got a matchup against San Diego. San Diego on paper, I mean, we've been saying this for a year and a half now. On paper, they look so good, but they just continually disappoint you time after time after time. And Fried's looked really well as of late, so I like him in this spot. But Christian Scott for the Mets, he's cheaper than all these guys. I mean, not Bayo and Means, but 8.1K. This is going to be his third start. This is a very highly touted prospect for the Mets in their organization. He looks solid in his 2 starts, for sure. Solid for 2 career starts, especially one of them being against Atlanta. Now he's going to be facing the easiest matchup so far of his young career. In Miami, in that great pitcher's ballpark as well. 8.1K, he's going to be rising to the top in this mid-tier for me. And then Luzardo, on the flip side of that, is going to be my favorite cheap play, just with the strikeout upside that he can bring. He hasn't been the Luzardo that we, came to expect last season, but his price tag of 7.4K is still just a little bit too wonky and too silly. So Luzardo, favorite cheap play down there against the Mets, who... They're not the Marlins and they're not the White Sox, but they're still not anybody that I'm deathly terrified to be playing a pitcher with strikeout upside against. And then Andrew Heaney, man, what's he gonna bring here? Is he gonna bring us the 7-8 strikeout performance that he's more than capable of? He has that ceiling just like Luzardo does in terms of a super high strikeout rate. Or is he going to allow 2 to 3 home runs, which has plagued him all throughout the course of his career? And he has those 2 innings where he just falters, and it's all downhill from there. Oh, no. I tend to believe, it's more so he's going to be doing well. He's just got a nice matchup against the Angels. I'm not too concerned with this Angels lineup, but, being a lefty, the Angels... They have a lot of righties in their lineup, so they don't have too many lefties that are going to be advantageous for Heaney. But yeah, after that, it's just kind of a lot of cheap nonsense or not really interested in. Feltner facing off against San Francisco. San Francisco's just got everybody injured in their lineup. They're over half their lineup is injured, and we're just looking at their minor league squad almost at this point in time. So I didn't have interest in San Francisco when they're fully healthy as an offense. Nah, I'm not going to have any interest in that one. So, going into some of the bats, the Yankees, they're going to be leading the way. The Yankees are facing off against Clevenger. Lefty, righty, it doesn't matter. Clevenger is actually a reverse splits pitcher, though. Pretty decent lean to one way. He's a right-handed pitcher, but reverse splits means that right-handed bats hit him quite a bit harder and do well against him. So don't be afraid to throw Judge, a guy like Judge or Stanton into your lineups by any means. But it doesn't mean that lefties are not bad or are not good against Clevenger. Clevenger just can't get anybody out, essentially. So Verdugo, he's going to be one of my favorite plays here. Just given the price tag and the salary that he is, 3.8K on one of the top offenses of the night. He's going to be in a favorable spot in the lineup, lefty-righty matchup. I know he's reverse splits, but still a lefty-righty matchup. Going to have a lot of interest in Verdugo here and a lot of shares in him tonight. After that, Toronto. I struggled putting Toronto here, but I'm gonna trust the numbers and not what has been going on over the course of the season with these Toronto bats. They've struggled. There's no surprise when I say that, but it's really collapsed a lot of or all of their salaries. Now that nobody on this team is priced over 5K. Awesome. They got a nice, lefty pitcher on the mound that they're going to be facing off against who can't strike anybody out. Toronto is a team that can absolutely load their lineup with right-handed bats. Awesome. And then if they chase Alexander out, they're facing off against one of the weaker bullpens in baseball so far this season. Which feels weird to say, just because we got so used to Tampa Bay being the bullpen darlings, but it's not the case this season. I mean, being the home team, they might not get that ninth inning, which, should come into play in some of your thought processes. I mean, you're talking a possibility of 4 more at-bats. throughout the lineup that won't be getting a chance there if they do indeed go off. But still, I feel like I'm just going on about Toronto here. I'm trying to convince myself. I think that they're in a great spot. They are in a phenomenal spot going up against Alexander and this bullpen, and their salaries are very nice. But man, I just got to trust the numbers and not pay too much attention to how much they've burned us so far throughout the course of the season. And then Detroit, led by Riley Green. He's gonna be the front runner for Detroit, but I really like their spot as well. Atlanta Dodgers, I mean, just elite offenses in nice matchups. Dodgers facing off against Montas, Atlanta facing off against Waldron. It's more so the salaries come into play. Like, if salaries were not a thing, bump them all the way up. But salaries do come into play. We do play DFS, so they get knocked down a little bit for that. Going into the GPP, I already talked about Seattle. I feel like if Means allows a lot of high balls and maybe some of these power bats from Seattle can get a hold of it, they could be really intriguing with how much home run upside that they do have. But I think that Milwaukee might be my favorite GPP team here, facing off against Brown. Brown, lefty, righty. He's kind of like Clevenger. It doesn't matter. Just target against him. And with Milwaukee being the road team, they're going to get the full 9 innings guaranteed, which is awesome. Give us as much opportunity to produce points as we can get. Contreras, Yelich, Adames, obviously we don't have to talk about them, just with how dominant and how good they have been so far over the course of the year. Two rankings is going to get you that home run upside, or home run. He's going to get you that stolen base upside, which that we look at so much. Love Bowers and what he's been able to do as of late. Just hovering over Jackson Chourio. I was so high on this guy entering into the season. I'm still not high on him. And I just wish that he did a little bit more. Wish I did a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, things have been going very well for Milwaukee as of late. Joey Ortiz, he's been hitting the ball quite nicely as of late, so he could be a nice cheap option for you at only 3.4K. But regardless, up and down the lineup for Milwaukee, they just continue to perform and do very well so far this season, so I really do like them there. Favorite cheap team is going to be Kansas City, and they're not super cheap, but they just got a great matchup going up against Mueller. Obviously, Witt is there, super expensive, and Perez. But after that, they get extremely affordable. I mean, half their lineup is going to be 3.5K or cheaper. So Kansas City, they continue to do well. Minnesota, we know about them. Arizona, talked about them with being leverage. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of where the sheet shakes out. I feel like I kind of already wandered on a little bit, but Yankees, Toronto, Detroit, I really don't think you can go wrong with any of these stacks if you're able to get them in. Milwaukee as well. And yeah, there's some cheap guys in all of these lineups where I don't even feel like you need to go into the cheap tier. I feel like you're able to just kind of stick with these top guys. So thanks for watching as always. Good luck in all of your contests, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video.